Welcome to your Tracker Installation and Training Guide. This session provides an introduction to Vicon Tracker. The main objective of this session is to help you navigate your way through the Tracker software. In particular, we're going to look at three main areas. The first is the Resources pane, and we will briefly discuss how this pane can help to control your workflow as well as save your system configurations. The second main area is going to be the Workspace, and we will discuss how we can actually view different types of data within this workspace. We'll look at how we can actually control how that data is viewed, and then also how we can save different view types within the workspace. The last main area is going to be the communications window and its role in the debugging process. The last thing that we'll talk about is how to customize your view options so that you can customize the appearance of Tracker.
So when you first open up the software, and that's done by double-clicking the left mouse key, you should see that there are three main windows that actually comprise the layout of the Tracker software. Over on the left-hand side, we have what's called the Resources pane, and what that really tells us is the system connected, which it is, and we can actually see that the cameras are starting to come in over here on the left-hand side. If your system is not doing this, you do not have the cameras coming in green, you may want to revisit the earlier guides for the hardware setup of your system, or potentially the computer configuration setup for your system. In addition, we have the capability to toggle between offline and live mode. Right now we can tell that we're in live, as it says it up here in the workspace, but I could also go offline to potentially view a trial by hitting go offline over here as well. Just below that, we have four main tabs that really control our workflow as we use the software. So the first one is going to be our system. We're going to prepare all of our cameras and make sure that they can actually see markers out in their individual camera field of views. And then we're going to calibrate all the cameras, and then we're going to create an object, and we may or may not actually create a recording. But the first thing that I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a system configuration. So right here, actually, you can see that I've already got one in there that's called Vicon Training. If I wanted to change the name, I can do so right here with this drop-down menu. I can rename it, or I can just go ahead and save it using this icon right here. Okay. What that's going to do is it's going to save all of the characteristics of the system, and that will include stuff that's included in the local Vicon system, such as the frame rate, or other parameters which govern how reconstructions are calculated in the 3D workspace. But it also gives us a chance to save the parameters for each individual camera. So we can set actually what the strobe intensities are, what the threshold, and we'll talk about this in another series when we actually look at optimizing and focusing our cameras. So in addition to being able to see all the cameras, we see that each camera has its own number, its own ID, and we can also see what type of camera it is. But we also can scroll down and actually see our 3 giganets that are actually connected together to get us all 23 cameras. We also see that we have another area down here for other devices, and this can include any analog device, maybe an Apex device, a Catalyst eye tracker, something like that. Over here in the main window, we have what's called the Workspace, and this lets us see any of our outputs in live mode. So right now, I'm in what's called 3D perspective. If I actually click on it, you can see that I can choose between a perspective view, an orthogonal view, each camera view, or produce a graph. Additionally, what I can do is I can actually save this view type as well by using this icon right here. So I'm just going to call this the default. You can see that there are many different areas in which you can save, but the save icons are corresponding to the specific area in which they reside. So over here, this is associated with the view type, whereas over here, this save icon is associated with the system configuration. So what this allows me to do is create a lot of different view types over here, and by splitting the screen, I can put maybe, let's say, a graph up here. I can split the screen again, let's say put a camera view up here, and let's go ahead and just select camera 1. So this is actually what camera 1 is seeing at this time. I can go ahead and create a new one as well, and then save this as Vicon training. And if I want other people to be able to use this configuration, I'm going to go ahead and make this shared. So now I can actually toggle back and forth between the default, which is just the workspace, and the Vicon training, which has the graph and the camera. I'm going to go back and just change this to the default so that we can see the entire screen. The only other button we have up here at the top is this center camera on selection. You can see if I actually hover over something, it's going to give you a little bit of a tooltip. So what this is going to do is, if you have this selected and then you select a marker on the screen, it's actually going to follow that marker and try and center it in the middle of the workspace. As for the workspace itself, just to navigate, you can use the left mouse button to actually rotate. Left and right together is translate. And if I use the right mouse button and pull down on the page, it's actually going to zoom out. If I use the right mouse click and zoom in, or pull up on the page, that's going to zoom in. The only other thing that we have in the workspace is you can see that we actually have a global axis. So the red is actually going to be the X, the green is going to be the Y, and the blue is going to be your Z axis. Okay, our last window that we have down here is the communications window. This will kind of give you a running tally of what's actually happening within the software, and this is pretty important for troubleshooting, particularly when you contact us on our support line or via email. For right now, I'm going to close it. If for whatever reason you guys actually want to open it back up again, we can open up the window and then select communications. So over here, actually up in the menu section as well, we still have a couple more options that we need to talk about. There is the floating workspace, and what this allows us to do is actually drag the existing workspace onto another screen. So potentially we could have many different groups at different angles actually looking at the same thing. And again, I can split the screen, or I can show orthogonal views, cameras, or graphs. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the options menu. Really what this lets you do is set your preferences for what you actually want to view in the workspace. So say for example, I don't want to see the camera positions, I can go ahead and check those off. Alternatively, what I can do is I can either make them bigger, or if my volume is really small, I can go in and type in a value and make them a bit smaller, just so that I can still see where they are, but they're not actually cluttering up the workspace. I'm going to go ahead and set this back to the default. You can see that each parameter has a little arrow beside it, and this lets you set it to the default. Other things I can do is I can change the floor grid. I can choose to get rid of it if I don't want it, etc. So you can kind of go through these different options and decide which ones you want to actually display. The one that I've saved right now, again, you can see that there's a save icon right here. The one that we've saved right now is to remove any unlabeled trajectories in the view so that we have a nice clean workspace, and that was just done over here in trajectories, and the unlabeled was actually unchecked, so it's not drawing any unlabeled trajectories.